Okay, before we start talking about the cost of living, I realized that I did want to show you a couple quick pictures of the faults and that issue of why there are so many earthquakes in California. This is the San Andreas Fault. It continues to run to the north, but there is a whole complex of faults throughout Southern California and Northern California. And the San Andreas Fault runs basically right through San Francisco Bay, and then it cuts through Southern California as well. But there are also transverse faults that go this way, and then this area there are a number of faults. And so the number of faults, especially in Southern California, has actually not even been fully identified. They discovered a new fault just a couple years ago. So this is an incredibly active area. And you can see in parts of the area, you can actually see the fault in if you drive by or you take a helicopter over. So it's pretty amazing. And unfortunately, people have built right on the fault. At least they didn't build houses at this point on the fault. There are places where people have built on the faults. That's much older housing that's no longer allowed, but this is actually a culvert that they put there to make sure that no one built. And then there's a walkway and a park. But yeah, I mean, there's houses right next to the fault. And it also leads to some fascinating geology and landforms. Look at this. Isn't that amazing? You are driving through the fault here. This is Highway 14. It's not an interstate, it's a state highway out kind of through the Antelope Valley. And you can actually see where the rock and the layers have been distorted and conformed. Isn't that just amazing? You drive through here. Here's the highway, and it says San Andreas Fault, and you're now entering the North American Plate. That always just delights me. So it is visible on the landscape. Okay, so let's talk about housing issues and the fact that California is such a popular place to live for so many reasons that it's really expensive to live there. And that's definitely a downside and causing a large variety of problems. So this data is a couple years old, but this is the most recent data that I can find. And if we look at some places in Kansas, or Missouri in this case, just to kind of give us a reference, monthly rent for a 900 square foot apartment, $1,400, right? That's in an expensive area. Normal area, 1,200. Okay. Lawrence, expensive, a little over 1,000. Less expensive, less than 100. 100 less, excuse me. If we look at Wichita, 1,100 for 900 square feet in an expensive area, and normal area, 851. Right, so we're somewhere a little less or a little bit more than $1 a foot, right? When you're looking at rent, which is not bad. Right? If we look at Los Angeles, look at that. An expensive area, you're at $2,400. An expensive normal area for just 900 square feet. That's not like that's a huge place, right? $2,000, right? So double what we are talking about, more than double for Wichita or for Lawrence or for Kansas City. That's the kind of expense we're talking about here, right? And even a 480 square foot apartment, right? So kind of half of the size here. We're still over $2,000 for an expensive area, right? So housing is really expensive. San Francisco, it's even worse. And the Bay Area is notorious. San Francisco itself is a city in a very small county. I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. There are serious, serious problems of housing up there. And I mean, look at that. An expensive area, $4,200 for 900 square feet. Isn't that just mind blowing? So when people talk about housing costs, this is what they're talking about for California. And unfortunately, this is one of the effects of that. The fact that housing prices have just continued to rise, that the market cannot keep up with the demand, the fact that we've had several recessions that have suppressed the development and construction, and the fact that there is a shortfall of more than 1.5 million affordable housing units throughout California means that homelessness and being unhoused is an increasingly severe problem here. And any place where there's available space, people are living there. Right? This is a freeway underpass. And so this is disused space, and it has been taken over, and there are growing encampments. And of course, the amenities, right? The weather, the fact that you don't have to deal with snow or terribly cold temperatures in Southern California, especially, at least not into the mountains. That is one of the reasons that the numbers of homeless or unhoused people are so high in California. But it also has to do with the availability of housing and the fact that services have been cut significantly. And so mental health support and other forms of support have really been decimated. But look at this map. This is the distribution of homeless people in California. There's a problem throughout the state in the urban areas. The further north you go, this is a fairly unurban area. There aren't any large cities really north of San Francisco and Sacramento. But Los Angeles and that area has some of the largest homeless population. And it's really a significant problem. And here you can see homelessness just jumping. That is LA County specifically. We'll look at where that is in just a minute. So that's just a single county. That isn't the rest of Southern California. Because Southern California and LA County are not the same. So here are some pretty sobering statistics about homelessness in California. You can look that over. The one I really want to call your attention to is the fact that 27% of the homeless and unhoused population of the United States is in California. And so you can see why this is such a challenging issue for cities and counties to deal with. Different counties, different cities are dealing with it in different ways. This is a beach city near in southern Orange County, which is the county that's south of LA. And they have actually turned some city land, some city parking lots, into a tent city. And they are providing the tents, and this is where they are trying to help people who don't have homes. Right? So there are other places where people are putting rocks under the overpasses so that people can't stay there. They are using water hoses and sprinklers and doing all sorts of things to try and drive the people out. The problem is, of course, that doesn't solve the problem. It just shifts it. And so there's a variety of different strategies, but the state is increasingly focused on this issue. All right, on a lighter note, on a less serious note, one of the other things that makes California a fascinating place is they have been a political and economic leader and trendsetter for a very long time. These are three more recent examples, but the advent of limiting plastic bags, for example, and single-use plastic, California has been a leader for that. California is a leader in a variety of different environmental and sustainability laws, plastic bags, rules about cars and the amount of emissions that they can have. This is what a gas pump looks like in Southern California. It looks different than the ones you may be used to. There's a much tighter seal, and it actually takes kind of more wiggling and a little bit more finesse to be able to work it. It still startles me when I get gas here in Kansas, that it's how easy it is to put the pump in. And so there's much tighter regulations for all things environmental. It would regularly cost me $50 to $70 less to get my tires changed in Texas when I was living there, the time I did it there versus when I was in Southern California, or it would cost at least $20 less to get my oil changed, because there are so many environmental taxes and regulations and disposal fees in order for the chemicals not to get back into the environment. So California has some really tight environmental laws. They also were the first state to enact the yes means yes law, right? The defining sexual consent that has been spreading. So California has some really interesting roles within the country. It provides a huge amount of food. It provides economic leadership and being a trendsetter, environmentalism. It's an interesting place. And the videos that I have linked below about some of the growth and the address book for gay communities, there's some other pieces that tie in with what we were just talking about here. And it also ties back to our discussion of transportation and the way that transportation evolved and shaped cities and sprawl. Okay? So that's all tying in together. Just a couple more quick thoughts, just as you're kind of getting your head around this area. This is the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco right here, it is both a city and a county. And it is one of the smallest, if not the smallest, counties in the country. And at the same time, Southern California has the largest of the counties in the country, which is here, San Bernardino. So when people say that they are from LA, rarely really do they mean Los Angeles. Los Angeles County is here, but that is not the same as Los Angeles, the city. And if you say you're from LA, you could be talking about really kind of anywhere from here with Ventura all the way through Riverside, San Bernardino. This is LA, the urban area, but it is not necessarily the same as the city or the county. I am from here. I'm from right about there. That's where I grew up, though I was born right about there. But so I actually was from Orange County. So in Orange County, you don't want to say you're from LA. You want to say you're from Orange County. But just to make sure that everybody's clear on this, this is what Los Angeles, the urban area, looks like. Right? My sister had a friend from rural Illinois, and she wanted to go to she was returning on a visit. She wanted to go to a restaurant we had taken her to, and I was having trouble giving her directions because I wasn't quite sure how much she understood of where she was. And so I was hesitating, and she's like, just tell me which way to turn at the edge of town. Like, well, there is no edge of town. Right? The edge of town is 80 or 100 miles to the east of here. So it's a very different place if you're used to growing up in a rural area where there is an edge of town. Okay? So this is an awful lot of Los Angeles County, but not all of it. Right? This is Orange County right here. This is the city of LA. And so this is what I mean why it's not the same, right? So there's the city of LA, and notice that there's places like West Hollywood and Van Nuys, Encino, places you may have heard of that are within the city. Those are areas of LA. But this is Los Angeles County, okay? And then that is the city of LA. And why is it shaped like this? Why does the city of LA have a tail? There's a road that goes right like that, the big giant thoroughfare. This is the port. That is the port of LA, which is one of the most important, as I said, ports in the entire country. And there was no way that the city of LA was going to let that tax money go. And so that is why it is shaped the way it is. Okay. All right. So I hope you enjoy the videos I've linked below. Let me know what questions you have.